We're going to head up north. We are going to go to Ann Arbor, and we are talking some Michigan recruiting with EJ Holland of the Wolverine. Michigan fans, hit subscribe. We are talking Wolverines recruiting today. And we got to start with number one running back, Savon Haidider. His recruitment is red hot. Now, it's not over. He's at Michigan this weekend, still has another visit to go. But EJ Holland, what are the early returns on the Savon Haidider visit?
I think they're going well, man. He's wrapping up his visit right now. His agent actually got on campus a day earlier than Savon, Adam McCann, who does a fantastic job with the business side of his recruitment. And the thing about McCann is he has a great relationship with Michigan general manager Sean McGee. And as we've talked about on this show, Josh, Michigan took a kind of wait and see approach until the settlement was approved. That obviously went through, and now Michigan is open for business. Business is booming, as Mr. McCann had to say on Twitter. So I think that Michigan is going to take care of the business side. They really value Savon Haidider as the most important overall recruit on the board. But on top of just, the NIL front, I think the relationship with Tony Alford, Michigan's running backs coach, is outstanding. It's a long-standing. Alford has been recruiting Haidider since he was a freshman, so dating back to his time at Ohio State. So that relationship is real. I think, just the fit at Michigan, the Wolverines' history of feeding their running backs, of keeping their backs fresh, having a great rotation. I think, you saw Justice Haynes talk about, what it means to go into Michigan in his exclusive interview with Pete Nakos and play in that offense and play for Tony Alford and how he transferred in. So I think that, Justice Haynes, Jordan Marshall, those guys had a chance to be around Savon Haidider this weekend and really make him feel like part of the running back room. So I think Michigan gave it its best shot this weekend. Obviously, you have a huge visit coming up next weekend with Tennessee, and Tennessee's done a really great job here as of late. They're very aggressive on the business front as well. But I think Haider's not going to make any rash decisions off, visit highs. He's a guy who's very calculated. He's been very calculated. He hardly does any media interviews, doesn't like to tip his hand or anything. So I think that, he's going to take a couple weeks to think about it, have more discussions before he makes a final decision sometime later this summer.
I like the fact that his agent came in beforehand, because you and I both know Savon Haidider. He keeps things close to the vest, doesn't really like talking about his recruitment too much, especially the NIL portion of it. So you were saying earlier in the spring, Michigan wasn't talking numbers. Now they're flying in agents before a visit to specifically talk numbers so that the visit doesn't get bogged down by that. Do you like this strategy that Michigan has moved to during official visit season?
Yeah, I love that strategy. I think that Michigan had a bit of a frustrating start to the recruiting process just because they weren't talking numbers. Everybody else was. People were getting upset. The recruiting class wasn't looking as great as it should have been, especially coming off of last year's strong finish. So I think that, Sean McGee has always been a smart guy. He has NFL experience. He worked with the Chicago Bears. He knows how to balance a budget. He knows how to deal with a salary cap. He, from talking to different agents that deal in the recruiting space specifically, they all love Sean McGee. They love his ideas. They love his plans. So a lot of these guys that didn't get exact numbers in the spring, like a Savon Haidider, their agents still had really good conversations with McGee about what things were going to look like at Michigan. And now with the settlement passed, those things are coming into fruition. And I think McGee was ahead of the curve in terms of being prepared for this settlement and how those numbers were going to be distributed for recruits on the trail.
Yeah, that's what you're saying all spring. They were waiting for this to happen. It happened, and now Michigan is heavily involved. All right, some other big names on campus: John Turrentine, Travis Johnson, DQ Forkpa, linebacker out of Georgia. Who else do you feel Michigan made a move on this weekend?
I definitely feel like they made a move on Travis Johnson. I'm really looking forward to catching up with him and his mother. He was still on campus as of like an hour ago. So I think with Travis, he's that big play wide receiver that Michigan needs. He's 6'3", 180, so he's a bigger body, but he also runs routes like a small guy. I think the new offense with Chip Lindsey, Michigan's new offensive coordinator, he's bringing more of a balanced attack, and that's certainly appealing to Travis. I think also just the fact that you get an opportunity to play with Bryce Underwood, a former 5-star quarterback, #1 overall recruit in the country. That's a big selling point for Johnson. And, I think Georgia dropped out of this race. Penn State didn't hit that home run like they wanted to last weekend. So the door was wide open for Michigan heading into this weekend. I think, they have the momentum for Johnson. Like I said, don't want to speak too soon just because I haven't talked to him and his family yet. But I really like Michigan in that recruitment. I think they made a big move for 4-star defensive back Andre Clark. He's long been a guy that Michigan's, prioritized, been after. He's a big time prospect also out of Virginia. He's really high on Kentucky as well. I think the Wildcats made a nice move last weekend, but at the same time, I think Michigan has always been that school at the front of his mind. And I think they continue to trend in a positive direction this weekend. 3-star defensive lineman Ben Boulware's not super highly ranked, but he is a prospect that Michigan really likes. They just landed a nice hidden gem in Alistair Vallejo earlier this week. They'd love to get Ben Boulware in there with him. So he's one that I think Michigan could easily bring into the class as well. So, yeah, I mean, a lot of positive momentum. They even had a mystery visitor that will be unveiled pretty soon. I think they have a good chance at flipping him. So overall, a really, really positive weekend for Sharon Moore and the Wolverines.
All right, EJ Holland, I know you'll be busy all day running Michigan updates from this big visit weekend. You guys go check out thewolverine.com for more.